Alright, here we are. So, I'd like to think you know who I am at this point. I'd like to think you know what we're doing here. The only thing that's changed is Spellcaster's Judgement. So, Spellcaster's Judgement, I recall this being the deck that probably featured spell counters, and I tried using this deck as well, minus the boss monster, because this, I think, was the deck that required a specific monster for it to be summoned. And at this point, I was done with those, I believe. Well, not specifically, but I felt that it was not the best. Oh. I thought that's what that was. Bop, bop. And... oh, there we go. Okay. So, unfortunately, I couldn't find a deck list with pictures, so we'll have to go over them through this list. Thankfully, it has quantity. That's the big thing that I'm looking for. Oh, yes, okay. Anyways, before we get started, hot takes requires hot food. Avocado toast with strawberry ghost pepper jam. And I loaded it this time. I believe that starts us off with the boss monster here. So let's have a look. Dark Eradicator Warlock. Yep. Has to be special summoned by tributing Dark Magician and cannot be special summoned other ways. Now that's not so bad, as Dark Magician was a popular monster and it also has had support, so getting Dark Magician itself out wouldn't be too difficult. But I think the issue becomes you'd be locked into Dark Eradicator Warlock, who has the same stats, but has the effect that you can deal damage to your opponent every time you play a normal spell card. Now, if it kept Dark Magician in some fashion, that would be something. Because the point of a Dark Magician deck back in the day was that you have Dark Magician out and you use the Dark Magician support cards like Thousand Knives or that Magic Box spell to harry your opponent. But, let's see, so a somewhat lackluster ability, but when it comes to the spellcasters, they're not entirely meant to be the end-all be-all of the deck. They're more comboed with spells. They get stronger the more you use them and all that. So, let's see this a sec. So, let's see. We'll see how the rest of the deck fares. Dark Eradicator Warlock. Okay. Alright. Now, here's one that I recall being completely enamored with. Mystical Beast Cerberus. Let's see. Each time you activate a spell card, you place a spell counter on this card, and he gains 500 attack for each spell counter. So yes, this guy lets you charge up spell counters. He starts out weaker than what was the standard, but you can easily charge him up to be very powerful. The only drawback is that if he enters battle at all, he loses all of that power. It's like he's charging up static electricity and hitting someone with it. Now, if there was a way for him to keep the spell counters, but in some sense, like say he only loses one spell counter every time he attacks or gets into battle, that would be something different. I believe that Mystical Beast Cerberus was retrained at some point, or possibly became Chimera. But Mystical Beast Cerberus is just an okay spell counter card, and spell counters themselves being the main focus of this deck, and also being a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Historically wonky archetype. I think that's the best way I can put it. Mythical. Oops, forgot the T. Alright. And of course, we have the very legend himself, Dark Magician. Of course, this is the more recent Speed Duel copy of Dark Magician. I wonder if it'll show us. Let's see. Let's have a look at the gallery. Structure deck, starter deck. Here we go. Here is the one for the. Wait. How do I get rid of the? Okay, there we go. So yes, this is the one from the structure deck. And yes, Dark Magician is a rival, has been set as a rival to Blue Eyes. Back in the day, I recall seeing more support cards for Dark Magician than for Blue Eyes, but now it seems to balance out in support and in power. Which should go to show the state of power creep for the game itself. Dark Magician having to get Xyz monsters and Blue Eyes having to get Synchro monsters just to stay in the game. Though Blue Eyes has taken the lead, obviously. But Dark Magician would be the underdog deck, though I haven't seen it top yet. So that is something I definitely would like to see. So, let's see here. What's up here? Okay. Let's go Magician. Let's see. Then we've got a Gemini Elf and a couple of Magicians of Faith. So, Gemini Elf, regular beater. As I said, 1900 was the standard 4-star attack monster at the time. It would only be in more recent years when that point value up to 2,000. I feel like, let's see, and it'll be, I believe there is a 0 attack and 2100 defense, 2100 attack monster at some point. There will be, I believe. And who knows, in the future we'll likely see that point value tip up maybe a bit more. Hopefully not, because 2000 is strong enough before going into higher ground. But yeah, just a regular beat stick monster. But we do have Magician of Faith. What is the current status? Who is now recently off the ban list. But for a while, I believe there was some combo using Magician of Faith causing her to be outright banned at one point and limited for the longest time. And there were 2 Magicians of Faiths in this structure deck. The older structure decks get, the more likely that they'll be hit by the ban list and become less viable as a investment. But here it seems to be working out so far. And I think that Magician of Faith has some Genesys points on it. So let's have a look. Night Elf. Did I spell it right? No, I didn't. It would be Gemini Elf. There you are. Gemini Elf even got a tune copy. Then Magician of Faith. I think it's gotten a retrain too. There's 2 of them. And Magician of Fate has no points, so interesting. I guess that's because it's unlimited. Points seem to be relegated to the limited and forbidden cards, as well as those cards that were part of the problem combos. Alright, let's see. Alright, we got Skilled Dark Magician. A very interesting card, a very interesting looking card from the anime. You see, so this guy, he is an enabler, like pretty powerful stats, very powerful stats there, and enables Dark Magician as well. Every time a spell card is activated, you or your opponent, you place a spell counter on this card. When that spell resolves, he can hold a maximum of 3, and when he has 3 spell counters on it, you may tribute him to special summon a Dark Magician from anywhere, except banishment. So, that's a very decent card. The issue, though, is that this is a very terrible top deck card. Like, the most you would be able to do at that point is play it out and hope your opponent plays enough spell cards for you to use the next turn. This guy requires your entire hand just to get Dark Magician out. Because, like, you play him out, you'll play a spell card, and at this point, let me double check this, but I'm pretty sure that absorption, lightning vortex, dimension, nightmare still cage. Yes, so I am fairly certain that the specific spell that came out with Endymion did not exist at the time, so you had no way of just using one card to get all 3 out at the same time. I forget what it was called, but it was, power or something, power grasp. Basically, it is a spell card, so that places a spell counter on it, and it also places another spell counter on whatever you want, and then searches out another copy of itself. You would play it at 3, and that was a good support for the spell counter archetype. So yeah, Skilled Dark Magician is only as good as the beaters that it stood next to. Like, if it wasn't for that high attack, it would be terrible. If it wasn't for its 1900 attack, it would be terrible. But thanks to that 1900 attack, it's okay. Like, you'd probably want this in the deck, sure. by factor that it is a 1900 attack monster at the time. Skilled Brown Magician. Is that the one for... Skilled Brown Magician reminds me of the brown lightsaber. Alright. Let's see. The next one I believe I saw. Yes. Apprentice Magician. This one would be possibly a must-have for spell counters. But it's also decent in searching out your old Vindictive Magician. Is she in here? No, she is not. Which is a very... which is a real shame. Though I don't know if old Vindictive Magician was out yet. But in any case, Apprentice Magician. When summoned, target a card on the field that you can place a spell counter on. Place a spell card on it. If this card is destroyed by Bell, you can special summon a level 2 or lower spellcaster from the deck and face it down defense position. And actually, I think the effect read differently. Let me double check the gallery. Here we go. Spellcaster's Judgement. Special. Okay. So, yeah. Special summon in the field. Face down defense position. Successfully normal, flip, or special summon. Okay. So, yeah. Back in the day, I thought that Apprentice Magician's spell counter effect activates when it's flipped face up. But no. It's when it is summoned. So you'd be summoning out in attack position. Let's see. And using its effect. So you would use... So there are a few cards you can use with this. But basically you'd only be using one effect or the other effect. Which isn't bad. Because it lends to its utility. But the thing is, more often than not, you'll likely be using the first effect, which is a gamble in and of itself, because then you'll be using the other support as that helps with you have a spellcaster. So in this deck, it's just a meh. Let's see, and there were two of them. Like, you would probably search out Magician of Faith with him. Alright, and as always, going through the monsters, we're a quarter of the way through, and we've yet to see any point increase. Let's see. Chaos Command Magician. Let's see. Ah, yes. A level 6 monster, 2400 attack. Negate any monster effects that target this card. A blase effect. There weren't a lot of monster effects back in the day that target destruction. This guy would likely take out, be able to take on the likes of Maneater Bug. But with 2400 attack, for only one tribute, it's a strong contender for cards to add to the deck. But it doesn't exactly do a lot with the spell counter strategy, which might be a good thing, might not be a good thing. Doesn't quite add a lot to the strategy outside of being a spellcaster that can't have any monster effects target it. So yeah. All right. All right. Let's see. Next, Breaker the Magical Warrior. Let's see. When normal summoned, place a spell counter on it. You can only have one at a time. It gains 300 attack for each spell counter on it. Doesn't exactly matter because it can only ever have one. You can remove a spell counter from this card to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. Very famous card. And destroying spells and traps is a pretty powerful effect back then, because equip spells and continuous spells held a lot of power. Equip spells especially, because there weren't that many ways of destroying a monster outright. More often than not, you would have to battle it to destroy it. And if it was boosted, that makes it difficult. So this would get rid of the floodgate and let you go through. But now we have it retrained, I believe. And the fact that it can only hold one. Making it at 1900 on summon. Furthermore, if its effects negated on summon, it'll just be a 1600 beater, which doesn't help. But it is a decent monster to have It was a decent monster to have for a spell counter tactic. So yeah, Breaker the Magical Warrior. Now here's one I have some history with. Royal Magical Library. I made an Exodia deck using this card. Not fully successfully, but okay. Let's see. 2000 defense monster. Each time a spell card is activated, place a spell counter on this card. When that spell resolves, you can remove 3 spell counters from this card to draw a card. Let's see. And I believe it became a famous recipe at some point. What you would do, you would play Royal Magical Library. Then you'd utilize cards like Broken Bamboo Sword to be able to use Golden Bamboo Sword. You would also possibly equip it with something like Mist Body. And you'd keep drawing cards through Royal Magical Library because it's not once per turn. But again, the problem with it is, like, at the start, it's a slow start. Like, you would play Royal Magical Library. You would probably want to set a back row that would stop your opponent from attacking and destroying it. And then you'd start, and once you hit a piece, that's less cards in your hand to use to keep the engine going. So there have been other ways that the Exodia deck can keep the draw going, and now we even have a fusion monster Exodia that doesn't necessarily require the Exodia pieces in your hand, it would still be a tough fight. But it would still allow you to add them to your hand, I believe. So, right. Royal Magical Library. Oh. Oh. That's unexpected. Look at that. First, okay. This doesn't necessarily mean it's busted. It's possible all the other cards are 0 points. We can't stop here. We got to keep going. But Royal Magical Library is at 100 points, probably for good reason too. Gotta add it. Okay. Royal Magical Library. That is a okay. That's the first monster that actually added points to the deck that we've had in this series. And this, on top of that, is the first 100-point card that we've encountered. I didn't even know this Royal Magical Library was 100 points. Alright. Let's see. I'm going to make a quick look and see if I've noticed anything that might add points to it. And I think I see one. Yep, I see a few of them. So we're going to go out of order a bit. And let's Divine Wrath. Yes, it's okay, I remember using that. Hammer, Steel Cage, Magic Dimension, Magic Attack, Diffusion Wave. Okay, so yes, I see a couple. Let's start with Premature Burial. I'm pretty sure that has some points. And yes. So yeah, this deck is a bust. Let's see. But oh, don't. All right. But for the sake of reviewing the deck, let's at least look at the rest of the monsters. Let's see, we stopped at Royal Magical Library. Now this deck featured a spirit monster. I think for some reason Konami wanted to have spirit monsters throughout. Maybe because they were introducing them, people were clamoring for them. Let's see here. Okay, so Tsukuyomi changes a face-up monster to face down defense position. This position, and after its normal summon or flip summon at the end of the turn, it returns to your hand. Decent in its own archetype, though not really, because with this much attack, if this is the only card in your hand, this is a win more card to the highest degree, in the worst possible sense. You'd want to, you'd want your opponent setting monsters to keep their attack points. So this, no. But now there was another spirit monster that actually changes battle position when summoned no matter what, and I think it had better stats too. Dragon Princess, I think. Not sure. So yeah, this is a no-go. Alright, Chaos Sorcerer. Now here's a famous one, and this is probably another one that adds Genesys points. I wonder if that's in here if that's considered in its stats. No, probably not. Alright, but yes. Chaos Sorcerer. Possibly the predecessor to Blackluster's... Well, they're listed over here. Envoy of the Beginning, Blackluster Soldier, and Envoy of the End, Chaos Emperor Dragon. This is probably the predecessor to it. Requires you to banish a light and a dark monster, and once per turn, you can banish a face-up monster on the field. And you cannot attack when you use this effect. Very powerful effect, as banishment was seen as the end-all be-all card removal until it more recently became a third hand. It's not easy to bring it back, but it's possible to bring it back from banishment. But now face-down banishment is a different story. They had to add that in. That is nuts. But yeah, Chaos Sorcerer. Let's take a look real quick and see. Oops. Chaos Sorcerer. Huh. No points. Alright. Okay, back we go. Chaos Sorcerer. Alright. White Magician Pikaru. I believe it's a level 2, wasn't it? Let's see. During your standby phase, gain 400 life points for each monster you control. You would likely search this out with Apprentice Magician, but effects like this aren't exactly powerful. This is a win more card, and it's also, and what else is in the deck? Might as well look it over here. Eba Magician Curon. Same, except it inflicts damage to your opponent for each monster they control during your standby phase. They'd have to have 2 monsters for it to be as powerful as Pikaru, but again, not a powerful effect. And again, you can search it out for Apprentice Magician, but these two you would likely trade out for Old Vindictive Magician. Now let's see. We've got Blast Magician. Let's see. Level 4 starts at 400 and doesn't start off with spell counters. Each time a spell card is activated, place a spell counter on this card. You can remove any number of spell counters from this card, then targeting monster on the field with attack less than or equal to the number of counters you can remove times 700 and destroy that target. So at 2 counters, you'd be able to take out a 1400 monster. At 3, you take out 21. In order to take out something like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, let's see, you would need 21 to 28. You would need 5 counters on Blast Magician. Forget about using your entire hand. You need your entire hand and your next draw. So yeah. This one, not a very powerful contender. But it's not that fast back in the day, so... Let's see, most of them were 1800 attack, maybe 2000, so... You would still need your entire hand, sort of. Because with 1400 attack, almost a recruiter could attack into this, and you'd be in trouble. A floater, I think it's called. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. So then, Rapid Fire Magician. I believe this one is the damage dealer. Let's see. Yeah. Average attack for level 4, and every time you activate a normal spell, you'll inflict 400 damage to your opponent. Not exactly a good card to have, especially due to the fact that I come to notice that only half of the spell cards in here are normal spell cards. Now, if it was just spell cards in general, sure, that's fine. But no, most of them is quick plays, equips, and a continuous. Alright, we've gone into the monsters, and that's 19 monsters, so that's a decent spread. That is a decent spread for number of monsters in the deck, as opposed to the earlier ones. Alright, we're almost halfway, so let's take another bite. Alright. Magical Blast. Inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each spellcaster you control. During the draw phase, if this card is in your graveyard before you draw, you can give up your normal draw this turn, and if you do, add this card to your hand. Decent for the spell counter strategy, because it'll ensure that you have a spell to play in order to gain spell counters. Does a little damage on the side, but you would have to forego your draw phase for it. Which you do have a choice in the matter. If you need to draw a new card, you can just leave it as is. Kind of a wind more effect. But if you're using spell counters, it might be good to have this at 2. Alright. And of course, we have Mystical Space Typhoon for spell and trap removal. Noble Admit of Cross Out to get rid of your opponent's flip effects. Premature Burial possibly was banned at the time, but serves as a Monster Reborn substitute. Swords of Revealing Light. Because Spellcasters prevents your opponents from attacking you for 3 turns. Helpful. Mage Power. For each spell and trap on the field, your monster's attack gets boosted. It's an equipped spell. Heavy Storm. Destroys all spells and traps on the field. Giant Trinade would be a better choice, but I can see why they would choose this as opposed to Giant Trinade. Giant Trinade was probably banned at this point, and Heavy Storm possibly limited. The Fusion Wave Motion. If I recall correctly, this one combines all of your Magician's attack into one attack. Let's see. If your opponent controls a monster, pay 1,000 life. But let's have a look at the original text. Let's see. Here, Spellcaster's Judgement. Let's see. And I think there was some problem-solving text too. So, yeah, now that there are fusion searchers, they had to state this is not a fusion card. Pay 1,000 life points. Select a level 7 or higher spellcaster on your side of the field. During this turn, only the selected monster can attack, and it attacks all monsters on your opponent's side of the field once each. The effects of effects monsters destroy this attacks are not activated. Okay, so yeah, this would be the first. This would be the support for Dark Magician, one of them. and I misunderstood how it worked. So, but this can be useful. It would combo with Mage Power or another equip spell, something that boosts your monster's attack. And then if your opponent managed to have a full field, you take out each one. But 1,000 points seems to be a steep cost, and the fact that only that one monster can attack also seems like a steep cost. So, not exactly a powerful card. You would probably want to replace this for something else. Maybe another Mage Power. We've got Reload because Structure Deck. Dark Magic Attack. I believe this is for Dark Magician. If you control a Dark Magician, destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. Heavy Storm would be a better option for this. But we can see why we can't have 2 Heavy Storms. And you need to have Dark Magician on the field. There doesn't seem to be a lot of ways to get him out. But we'll see. Let's keep looking. Let's see. Spell Absorption. I believe this is a side spell counter strategy. Each time a spell card is activated, gain 500 life points. Yes, that is a decent effect. It doesn't exactly do anything else. Sort of a win more card, but yeah. We've got Lightning Vortex. Discard a card. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Very costly. And this deck doesn't seem to have ways of utilizing it except outside of special summoning a monster back. Possibly utility. This one. Very powerful card for spellcasters. Let me see if I'm remembering correctly. Let's see. So we'll go over the more recent effect. If you control a spellcaster, target a monster you control, tribute it, then special summon a spellcaster monster from your hand, then you can destroy a monster on the field. Then special summon a spellcaster from your hand, then you can destroy a monster on the field. Yeah, so yeah, that seems straightforward. Let's see how the structure deck read. Let's see. That we cannot see. Why can't we see? Let me see. Oh, here it is. Wonder what that is. Okay. Let's see. You can only activate this card while there is a fail-up spellcaster monster on your side of the field. Tribute one monster on your side of the field and special summon a spellcaster from your hand. Then you can destroy a monster on the field. So yeah. Compare that to... Yeah, so they shortened it down, is what they did. But yes, as I said, very powerful card. This would be one of the ways you'd get Dark Magician out. You'd probably summon something like Apprentice Magician, something like that, and you'd use Magical Dimension to... open the lights. You'd use Magical Dimension to not only get your monster out, you'd also summon your Dark Magician. Alright. Got a bit more to go, so one more bite. Alright. Mystic Box. Another Dark Magician support card. Let's see. Well, not necessarily Dark Magician. Target a monster your opponent controls and a monster you control. Destroy the first, then give control of the second to your opponent. likely you would probably use this in conjunction with Apprentice Magician. So yes, Apprentice Magician might have a use here, as it needs to be destroyed by an opponent's monster. Let me double check that. Apprentice Magician. Does it have to be destroyed by Bell? Yes, it does. So yes, you would likely use this in conjunction with Apprentice Magician to activate his effect. So yeah, a decent card, Let's see, where's Magic Box? Okay, Mystic Box. Nightmare Steel Cage, a side grade of Swords of Revealing Light. It stays up for less turns, and it prevents all players from attacking. Then we've got Call of the Haunted. We, return a monster during the battle phase, likely. Spell Shield Type 8. We've gone over this in an earlier deck. Let me see, a very decent Spell Negation card. Now we have Pitch Black Power Stone, a continuous trap card. And another one of the first support for the Spell Counter archetype. Pitch Black Power Stone, when activated, gets 3 spell counters. You can move a spell counter from... Let me double check. Yeah, you may move a counter from Pitch Black Power Stone to another monster. And once per turn, I should say. Let me see. Yep, once per turn during your turn. It's a trap card, so you'd have to wait a turn after setting it. Then you can activate during your opponent's turn, but you can only use its effect on your turn. But it'd still be a quick effect. Granted, it would still be a quick effect. You can use it anytime during your turn, but only during your turn. And it's once per turn. You'd only be able to move a spell counter from that to a monster. But it lends itself to better support, but all in all, you'd want to replace this with more recent options. Let's see, Divine Wrath kind of works similar to Spell Shield and Trap Negation, I think. Let me double check Spell Shield and Divine Wrath. As well as activate, target exactly one monster. Spells activate. Yeah, so yeah. Decent spell negation. And then Divine Wrath. Negates effect monster activation and destroys it. And it works effectively the same as Spell Shield. And finally, everyone's favorite, Magic Cylinder. Let's say your monster has a Blue Eyes White Dragon on the field, and you manage to will them down to attacking. You would use this at the last second to secure a victory. So, deck review. A few cards in here can be upgraded to better options. Maybe get rid of Dark Eradicator Warlock and put in another copy of Dark Magician instead. All in all, though, a solid deck just needs a few replacements. Is it Genesys friendly? Heck no. Like, by virtue of Royal Magical Library alone, it is not Genesys friendly. I don't remember it having 100 points. I'm going to review the other decks, make sure their point values hadn't increased. But yeah. Spellcaster's Judgement is a bust as far as Genesys is concerned. So yeah. Tune in next week when I review let's see. when I review Invincible Fortress, featuring Exod, the Master of the Guard. Ta-ta. I forgot to close that door.